I made $1,000 on CRDF today. I'm the best day trader in the world. #1 day trading channel. What's going on, guys? Today I want to show you a couple different stocks that I traded. CRDF, EBON, PLL. Gonna show you the trades and show you the difference between a good setup in terms of a stock that has momentum, a stock that has volume, a stock that's just saying, hey, buy me, baby, buy me, because I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna go higher. I'm gonna go higher and higher, right? Sometimes there's just those types of stocks. And CRDF, I'm gonna show you the chart here in a second. You're gonna be like, yeah, that was a stock that you should have been buying. But EBON, you're going to see the difference between a strong momentum style stock versus a stock that's just kind of bouncing around and chopping around with no real setup. And the difference in the idea that, hey, you know, let's just be patient. Let's wait for a good stock, something that just comes along and just screams, you got to buy me. All right? So if you guys want to see all that, make sure you stay tuned. Also, do me one big favor. Hit that like button. You don't understand how much it helps me help you when you hit the like button, because it's really just a simple thing. But YouTube thinks that if you don't like the button, that if you don't click it, that you don't like the video. So then the YouTube doesn't help me help you. So let's all work together here. You know, let's go. Let's hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit that bell notification as well when you subscribe. That way, when you'll get alerted when I go live on YouTube and all that as well. I've said a lot as well. Let's get into the video. Let's go. Sometimes not taking a trade is the best trade. Today, CRDF, we'll just check out my P&L here. This video is not about me talking about how I made $1,000 on this stock. This video is simply a video to talk about why it's important to trade stocks that have setups, why it's important to trade stocks that have volume, and all of that fun stuff. So right now you can see CRDF up $1,000, made $160 there on VVPR, lost $380 on EBON and PLA. We'll go through it and take a look at them. Let's start out with the biggest loser being EBON. EBON today had a big gap, or I don't even know what you call this thing, where it went from $9.60 up there to $14, $15, crashed back down, got above the VWAP, was thinking, oh, hey, this might be time for it to break out and go to the moon here, right? Wishful thinking. Really, what I should have been noticing, the volume was pretty light. The thing was kind of just chopping around, and I think it was okay to take one trade on it, Patrick. You know, one trade was okay. That's fine. But the problem is I ended up trying to take another trade on it, and I ended up getting up for a big loss. And as you can see, the volume was just really light through here. Only 30,000, 50,000 shares traded. And right here, what happened is we had the VWAP right there at the 1120. This candle pulled back 1125 area. I'm thinking that, okay, we might, you know, pull back, might kind of bounce here for a little bit. The volume, again, volume being so important, the volume was light. This thing sold right through the VWAP, no support, just woo, gone like that because of the volume. Volume's light through this move. The buyers didn't step in, and I basically sat there and held it. And I'm like, well, I can't get out because this thing just dropped 50 cents and there's no buyer. So I'm going to wait for some type of pop. It did end up popping all the way back up there to the 1124 area. I just wanted to get out of it at that point and take my loss and go look for another opportunity. But EBON, this was a stock that I should have just stayed away from. The momentum was done. It was over. It was gone. It was done, Patrick. Look at the momentum. Look at the volume. What's happening? Don't try to just buy any stock in every stock. So EBON, perfect example of just doing bad things and getting dumped on right there. Getting dumped on with small size too, which is pretty crazy to lose $380 with small size. I think I had like 500 shares. So yeah, really bad there. So again, you know, just because a stock is moving does not mean that it's a good setup. Does not mean that you should trade it. PLL. This one's frustrating because I was up like $200 at one point on this stock. I was in there. I jumped in there with 632 shares at $10.30. It spiked all the way up here to $10.65. I was thinking that we were going to push to 11 and start to move. But again, guess what? The volume is really light. This is the 5-minute candle. If you can see here on the 1-minute candle, this thing looks bad, right? It's only got 700,000 shares traded so far. I thought that this thing was going to start ramping and just get halted and then get some volume on it. but it ended up just dumping. And I was sitting there kind of like, okay, we're gonna bounce, we're gonna bounce, and I ended up getting out for a loss. Again, just really just poorly trading that. Getting out for a full $1 loss on those final shares. The one thing is I did sell half my position there. I did get filled 200 shares there at 1061. But the way that this thing was trading was really spready. At one point, there was like a 30-40 cent spread, and the volume was just not there at all. Some of these candles have 4,000, 7,000, 3,000 shares. So volume, setups, nothing was going on there other than this little spike here. I was like, okay, this might get going here, but it got crashed back down. You can still see, guess what happened later on? It spiked all the way there to 1170. Does that mean that I was right? Does that mean that I should have held this one? That's $1 million question, right? I basically sold down here at the bottom of this pullback, and it rallied up there at 1170 later on. So the other trade that I made here, what else did I get? I got a trade on, SRNE. SRNE was kind of just a try to buy the dip, little quick bounce. It ended up, again, kind of doing what I needed to do. I got in there at I got in there at 938, and I got out at 937. Just didn't want to go. It ended up spiking 10 cents from that little bounce there, and it did bounce all the way back over to 1064. One thing that I want to clarify, it's not that I'm bragging like, oh, look at my entries and stuff like that. This is just, again, kind of talking about, what I'm doing wrong. Overall, SRNE, this was just kind of buy the dip, look for a little bounce back. It did get a little bounce back. I'm not so mad about this one, really. I think SRNE, that had its potential. I only lost $6 on that, so it's not a big deal. There's 100 million shares traded, so there was plenty of volume to get in and out quickly and scalp it if I needed to, but we just didn't get the move I was looking for. We did get a little couple pops, but ended up getting out for a 1 cent loss there on those 600 shares. So this one, I'm not so mad about. I think that was a good potential kind of bounce back towards the VWAP kind of trade after this thing sold off so much, all the way down here. All the way down here to that little area, 930. Was kind of thinking that was going to bounce a little bit, and it did bounce 30 cents. So it's not that I was totally wrong in my thesis or my idea, but SRNE, okay, but I was definitely fighting the trend. There were no shares to short there on SRNE, so it didn't really matter to think about it as a short. It was kind of just maybe look at a bounce. But again, definitely some over trading. This is definitely not a setup that I would normally take, so I would say there's just a bit of over trading there on SRNE after kind of losing on those other stocks. So PLAY was another similar move to SRNE, thinking that we might get a bounce off this $15 area. There were no shares to short at the time, so I couldn't short it. There was only an opportunity to get long. You can see we bounced earlier in the day at the $15 area. We pulled back, kind of bounced there at 15 again, back up there 20, 30 cents. I was thinking maybe we got a little pop back up to that VWAP area, 15.50, but really, again, not really a setup that I would normally trade, not a momentum kind of trade. Overall, the momentum is pointing down where we're at. We're below the VWAP, so really just a kind of forcing trades. Really, yeah, just forcing trades at that point, trying to get back. And then finally, CRDF kind of made that big move, and we were able to go from red to green. Now, one thing that I want to clarify here is that going from red to green is not an honorable thing. It's not like, hey, guys, I was red and then I was green. That's not what this is about. I know some people out there, they try to brag about how they can lose money and then make it back. That's not how you should be thinking as a day trader. Your idea should not be, well, if I do lose $1,000, I could probably make it back in the same day. Because the thing about it is, the more that you lose, the more those commissions rack up, the more those profits, end up just getting taken out. And even if you're able to scalp back to green, it's much, much more difficult because every loss is just that much more on top of the other losses, the commissions, the fees, and everything starts to snowball. And before you know it, your commissions, your fees are $300, $400, and you're sitting there like, whoa, I made $1,000 on CRDF, but I also lost, $300, $400 in commissions and fees on everything else when I was trying to scalp back to green. So being able to go from red to green is not a skill. It's overall we're trading. So every trade we go into is a new trade. So if I make a trade on CRFD, that's my trade on CFRD. The next trade that I take on another stock is another stock. It's not like it's not like every day I'm like, hey, you know, every single trade that I take is, the more trades that I take, there's a chance that I'm going to be red. Every single trade that I take, there's a chance that I'm going to win, obviously. But every single trade, those chances reset, right? So the more and more that I trade, obviously there's going to be a better chance that I'm going to finally have a red trade. But, you know, going into every single day, if I have a red day yesterday, if my red day was yesterday, I don't think that, hey, today I got to get back to green. I'm just thinking, hey, today is another day to take a trade. CRDF. Could I have traded it better? Always, you know, always in hindsight, you can always trade it better. Who knew? No one knew that CRDF was going to go from my initial, look at this, 766 down to 766 area, buying the dip there and rallying all the way to 1120. No one knew that was going to happen. You know, it's hard to sit here and be like, okay, I'm buying the dip and I'm going to sell at 11. You know, it went from 7 to 9 to 9 to 10. And you're like, man, this thing probably is, you know, maybe it's going to be done at some point. And obviously, the more and more that you're trading it, the more and more you trade this move, you can see, you know, these moves started getting a little bit more and more choppy as that move went higher. So it's kind of like you get that one pullback, the second pullback, the third back, the fourth, the fifth, and then finally it's like, okay, now the sixth time it pulled back, it's not going to bounce back to the highs and it sells off. That momentum is finally gone. So again, this is what, you know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, trading this. Not normally when I trade. If CRDF would have made this type of move earlier in the day, you know, coming out of the open, I think it would have been much stronger and probably would have got an insane move there. But, you know, being that it's in the middle of the day, it's just not as strong as that initial type of move in the morning, especially when the market's dead in the morning. Not a lot of people trading. But the moral of the story, like I said, wait for the best opportunities. CRDF proved to be the best opportunity. Did I capitalize to the best of my abilities? I mean, I guess to the best of my abilities, but there's always room for improvement. But number one, understanding and knowing that just because the market is open does not mean there's a good trade. Just because you want to make money doesn't mean you're going to be able to. So just sometimes the best thing to do is either just walk away, put your hands on your butt, and just sit back and wait for something really, really good like CRDF. You can see the difference. CRDF was easy money, $1,000. Boom. $1,000 in the bank. Now, trading EBON, chopping around, I just lost money. So when you see that momentum, when you see that action, it's time to capitalize. When there's no momentum, when the stocks are just kind of bouncing around, chopping around, stay away. Stay away from them. Don't do it, Patrick. Don't trade them. All right? All right. So there it is today. A little bit of a battle here midday. Did not trade this morning and came back after lunch and was like, oh, let me see what's going on. Ended up making some bad choices, but then ending up green. You know, like I said, it's not a accomplishment to go from red to green. It's just kind of, you know, sometimes you lose a trade, sometimes you win a trade, but when momentum is there, that's what it proves. That when momentum, when the market's good, you know, when we have a strong mover, when a stock like CRDF pops up and we get a good mover, it's much easier to capitalize and make money when you have a stock that's giving you a good overall trend, good overall momentum, good volume, and everything that we're looking for a good setup. So that's it. Look for opportunity, wait for opportunity, and then when that opportunity comes, pounce, capitalize, go to town, baby. All right, all right. So if you guys haven't already, do me one big favor. Hit that like button, subscribe button, all the buttons down below. I'll talk to you guys later on.